Good morning. Where's my focus? Where's my autofocus? There it is. Morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What's our quote of the day? Quote of the week. I like that. Same, but different. That's right. We need a quote. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. It's going to be a good day for me. Finally. Feels good. Finally get on the right side of this market overnight. We'll see if it holds up into open. That's only the concern now. Welcome back, guys. Happy Thursday, August 7th. Welcome back to the live stream. Thanks for being here again. Let's just do the old... Just throw that up there. Just the old trusty. Pump. Appreciate that, Pump. MU, you got it, Pump. Thank you, brother. Milan, thank you for joining the coffee fund. I appreciate that. Trust me, bro, it's different this time. The Timida. What's up, Piff? Nice job yesterday, Piff. Nice job in general lately, man. All right. Welcome back to all the familiar faces. Hope you're having a fantastic morning. Hope you had a good day yesterday. Some really nice levels yesterday. Just clean stuff, man. Yesterday was a clean day. A lot of clean stuff, a lot of clean levels across the board on individual equities, on the overall market. So congratulations if you caught a piece of that. Today, one level left. There's one level left, and we are at it right now. On that SPY 639. So we got one more left before we can call this something to trust fully. We have definitely seen markets that gap ups create, downside opportunities. We are on yet another gap up today, which means we need to be careful of the gap fill. There is definitely a high likelihood that I do take a lot of profits this morning on some swing trades, just to at least lock in and realize some gains. The pullbacks are the best entries. That's just how it is. We know that in every situation. So a big gap up today probably warrants a pullback. If you don't want to withstand that pullback and see your positions sort of decrease in value, I think maybe taking some profits off the open, looking for a re-entry point lower is probably the right way to approach this market. That has been the right way to approach the market, and I think it will continue to be the right way to approach the market. And we just had a fantastic pullback on the market over the last few days. And we'll talk about some of the trades that I entered yesterday. For you guys that are in the group, you saw me enter those yesterday on the intraday. And we'll talk a little bit about the game plan on those. Tonight, I am planning to record the video about my performance in July. So about my red month, which is the first red month I've had in about 6 months. So pretty crazy. But I mean, after today, I think we've almost made back almost all of the gains or the losses. So pretty damn close. So just a speed bump, as it always is. As long as you have a system, you have a strategy, you have some kind of confidence and some kind of discipline, a red month or just a little bit of, if you're struggling, but you know what you're talking about, right? If you guys know what you're trading, know what you're looking for, but you're still struggling, just continue to fight. Continue to fight. You're going to be fine. You know what you have to do. Sometimes things just don't work out for you, but just keep fighting. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm pretty much 100%. I mean, I am 100% positive that I will make back the losses from July. There's not even a question. So just keep that confidence in you. That's all. A confident person is a very powerful person. Don't ever lose confidence in yourself, man. If you're not going to be confident in yourself, no one else is going to give you that confidence. You got to have confidence in yourself. You can't talk down to yourself. You got to be just always positive, always forward looking. Don't let the markets bring you down. Always stay positive. Always be disciplined. That's my motivation for you today. Lady, appreciate that, lady. Lady Strick. Appreciate that. Thank you for the gifted to some of the people out there that now can chat. Appreciate that, lady. Thank you so much. All right. With that said, let's do it. Let's jump into the circle. All right. So today, let's get the light on. Let's move over everything here. Alrighty. That's that. One last thing we got to do. There we go. All right. So today, let's start with economic data. We do have some economic data this morning. We have unemployment claims at 8:30. Okay. So 8:30. So in about 24 minutes, we have unemployment claims. So we do have a little bit of data. So just be aware of that this morning. On top of that, we had some earnings. Let's go ahead and pull up that earnings calendar real quick. I think we had some pretty decent earnings. We had DraftKings, which I believe was up nicely. I'm excited. Who's excited for NFL? What's going on with my... Don't tell me I lost internet. There we go. Maybe we do a... super bearish. I love when people think that I have a thesis or a bias. Super bearish, but long about $40,000 of super bearish, but long about $40,000 in calls overnight. How does that make sense? Does that make sense? I guess maybe. I don't know. Anyways, so yesterday, AppLovin, Duolingo crushed it. DraftKings crushed it. Let's see here. What did AppLovin do? Flat. Duolingo, Jesus. Straight up Duolingo. DraftKings, I think, did pretty good as well. Not bad from DraftKings. How did Elf do? Elf down. How did Joby do? Slightly lower. Okay. This morning, Eli Lilly. How'd Lilly do? Lilly, down. Back up a little bit. Not much there. Tonight, Trade Desk, Block, Pinterest, Twilio. And then, of course, yesterday we get the Apple news. Datadog crushed it. Huge Datadog move. We'll take a look at Datadog a little bit later. Apple, obviously, with the whole thing going on at with the investment in the U.S., with the getting on the side of the president, right? All that stuff going on. So a little bit of upside on Apple because of that. Let's just get over the levels. Let's look at some really good setups. That's really it. We don't need to implement much noise into our trading. Let's just jump right in. So yesterday, what we said was not bearish. What we said was, if you break below these lows, you go down. If you break above these highs, you go up. That's what we said. We said we had a no trade zone within this area, right? All you have to do is really listen. If you listen, you'll figure it out. So we said if you get above 23,250, you go up. If you go below 23,000, you go down, right? And then if we go here, right, we'll go here real quick. And we will go to right here, right? And then we'll go right here. And we'll take a look at this tweet right here. All right, so this tweet right here was from yesterday. And it said, under 23,030, you're going to 22.8. Above 23,250 in the 20 SMA, you're going to 23.4. That's what we said yesterday. That was sent at 6:42 a.m. So you guys can see right here, above 23,250 in the daily 20, you're going to 23.4. That's exactly where you went. That's exactly where you went. So that was very nice. we said wait for the channel to break either below Tuesday's lows or above this Tuesday rejection point at 23,250. And you guys can see yesterday, once we got above 23,250, which was right here, and the daily 20 SMA, you went up the rest of the day, which was spot on. Spot on. And I have no remorse to put that out there, you know, very openly. We said above 23,250 in the daily 20, you're going up. That's exactly what you did. You went straight to 23.4. So beautiful, beautiful, beautiful game plan yesterday for those that paid attention yesterday. Now, today, there's a level left, 23,617, which is this high right here. See this little high right here? This little rejection? This right here. 23,617. This is from Thursday of last week where we went down. See this? Look at this right here. 23,617, 23,617. Right here, right here. Holding, break, retest, rejection. 23,617. Now, you can see today, that is the exact level that we're finding resistance at. Bam. 23,617. That must break today. That must break today. If we do not break that, there is possibility of a failure there. That is 100% valid. If you fail here, and you fail here, and you fail here, you are going to see a slight pullback off this level. If you get a pullback off this level, you should look at it as a buying opportunity. In my opinion, your buying opportunity is back at 23,405 to 23,465. Previous lows, previous lows, previous rejection highs, and this would be your new must-hold demand zone right in here. 23,465 to 23,400. You get a pullback into that level, that would be your long opportunity back to the upside. If you fail under 23,400, 23,405 right here, if you fail back under this Tuesday high and you fail back under these lows, that is the only place on this market where this could flip back to the downside temporarily, right? If you fail back under 405. If you don't fail it back under 405, you are bullish and very bullish. If you fail back under, that is, you know, back into the channel, and that's sort of like the yellow light. This is the green light, this is the yellow light, and then this is the red light. If you fail back under 250 that we held yesterday, and you start to reject back below the daily 20, that is your red light, bears back in control area. But for now, that is very far away, and we'll have to see what happens today. Here's your lows, here's your highs, right? And here's where you got to hold on. Pullback longs here would be a thing of absolute beauty. Pay attention to 23,405 to 23,465 today if the NASDAQ does get a pullback into that level. If you get above 23,617 today, there is nothing, and I mean nothing, to 23,800. You have this. This is nothing. This is not going to stop the market from going up. If you get over 23,617 and you see a break, oh, that's a flashbang. If you get a break and retest hold above 23,617, that is your upside continuation move. That is your ripper right there. 23,8, 23,845 all-time highs NASDAQ. If you get above 617. Okay? Very clear. S&P 500. Same exact thesis. Yesterday, we said you either have to break Tuesday's lows or get above 63.75. Those are the two things. You want to get outside of the Tuesday range. Tuesday highs, Tuesday lows. We opened yesterday right in the center of that channel. We want to see a break below 63.18, Tuesday's lows, or above Tuesday's highs, 63.75, for the next move on this market. Otherwise, you're going to see sideways action within this area. We closed the day right at 63.75, which is our exact level we talked about. We literally closed right at that level yesterday, 63.75 right there. In the after hours, you hold above it, and that is what created this upside continuation and this upside squeeze. That is right here on the hourly chart. 63.75, major highs, major lows, major highs, and you're holding above it now. What's the best pullback long today? Honestly, it's probably 63.75. That's probably the most comfortable and the cleanest pullback level to look for is back to 63.75, and then trust that area and trust the daily 20 SMA that's going to be sitting pretty close underneath it. That would be a great spot. Now, there's also a very key spot that probably holds before 63.75. I would assume it does. Maybe not, but I would assume it does if this market stays strong. And that is 63.91 to 6,400. That is these lows right here. That is these lows right here. That is these lows right here. That is these highs right here. And that is these highs right here. If you see this right here, right there, 63.91. Diesel, why do you pay me? Why do you pay me to be here and then talk about how I'm wrong? Great, keep paying me, man. Appreciate that. Thanks for everything. Thanks for the $5 a month. Thank you so much. All right, so 63.75, 63.66. That would be the area to look for a pullback long to. 63.91, 6,400 right here. You guys can see these lows, these lows, these lows, these highs right here, and then this little high right here. So today, what I would look for is 63.91 to 6,400, right? If you get a pullback here, this could be a great spot to look for a long. Under that, 63.75 to 63.66. Those would be my two spots that I would look for a pullback long today. Very, very nice. Those are my two spots. So right here and right here. Okay. Above that, if we do hold those levels, you are up into a very major supply above. Right here. These highs and these highs. 64.31, 64.42 area. That would be my next spot. All right? Right here. So if you look at this, you can see these highs right here. And I sort of grabbed, what I grabbed here is these highs right here. And sort of this area right there. It could be like 35 to 31 area, but I'm just going to keep it at 31 just to be super cautious. So 64.31 to this high right here at 64.42 is sort of where I'm cautious of potential rejections. Right? Right here. Right here. Right? And then right in here would be where I'm cautious of the potential failure. Right in here. Okay? I would look for the pullback longs in this zone, pullback longs in this zone. All right, so that's that. Let's continue. SPY ETF. So we are on a gap up on the SPY, right? And you guys know that we have seen markets gap up, and then we've seen them pull back to fill the gap. So my gap close level is 632.78. You can see that dotted line sort of running across my screen. 632.78. The way I get that, right, is I go to the daily and I take the close of the previous day. The close of the previous day is 632.78, pretty much on the it is on the dot. That's where we closed yesterday. So that actually lines up really well with the pullback long at our 633, 634 area, right in here. This would be a fantastic pullback, gap close, long area. This would be a great spot to look for today before you get too aggressive on the long side, to look for that pullback long, right? That would be the spot. So you have these lows here, you have these lows here, you have these highs here, and you have these highs from Tuesday right there. So if we sort of zoom in on this, we can see a pullback to the Tuesday highs and a pullback to previous highs of yesterday would be a great opportunity to look for that pullback long area. You would fill that gap. You would come back down to these highs. This would be a great little area to see if bulls can sort of pick back up steam, maintain structure, and then continue higher once again. If you get under that gap fill in yesterday's close, then it gets a little bit questionable, but you do have this 631.50 level right here, and these previous lows right here at 631.50, and then of course you have the daily 20 SMA below. Now, above the key supply that I would be cautious of today, right, is 638, 831, and 639 right here. This right here. You have very clear highs, very clear rejections, and you can see right now in the pre-market, you're rejecting that area, right? So you're starting to see some fails right at that area. So just be careful there, right? That's a great spot to probably take some profits on the longs into. That's a great spot to just be aware that, hey, there's probably a pullback off this level. This is a big gap up, and we can probably see some failure up there. And let's just let this market sort of come back down, fill the gap, find new demand, and then let's re-enter our positions if we see fit. So that's going to be something I watch. This market flips, right? In my opinion, you would flip on this market back to sort of a questionable move. I don't want to say bearish, but a questionable move if you get back under this 631.50 area. If you fail back under that pre-market high from yesterday, if you fail back under these lows, and you fail back under this hold from last night, if you fail back under that, that gets a little bit questionable. You would still have the daily 20 below, which could hold it up, but I don't think that would be a great thing to see a failure back under that pre-market high from yesterday, right? That would be, right? You'd feel a little bit questionable on that. So just be aware if you do see that, sort of reassess the current action, right? Okay, QQQ. So Qs, yesterday, we wanted to break over 563, right? Or we wanted to break under 557.50. That was our thesis yesterday for the long or the short, right? We wanted to see a break over this rejection from the day prior, this 563 level. We wanted to see a break above that for upside, or a break below these 557 lows for downside. Okay, what happened? We got above 563, we held above it, and that created the long, that validated the long idea, right? Above 563. So above 563, you got into your 566.50, 568 area, which was our next area of supply. You can see right in here, previous highs, previous highs, previous highs, lows, 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 rejections, rejections. That's where we traded up into. Now today, we're holding above that, which I think is very, very bullish for the moment. We'll have to see what happens today. But for now, the fact that we're holding above these highs, right, and this rejection area, you can see we're holding above that right now. That is very good, right? That is very good. So if you get a pullback, that would be, number one, a good retest of these highs, and it would also be a gap fill. A gap fill, the gap fill completes at 567.32. So if you do get that pullback today, that is nothing more than a gap fill, which is very, very common in this market, especially with gap ups. We've been getting gap fills that stay bullish, but you have to allow time for it to fill the gap, right? If you're long too early, while it's filling the gap, you get sort of messed up. That's happened to me a few times. So what I would look for today, if you want to find new long entries, the A+ spot, in my opinion, would be after a gap fill, right? Back here around 568, 566.50, back down to these Tuesday highs, and back down to previous day highs. That would be great. What could happen to keep us bullish here without a pullback would be a hold right above this level right here. This high right there. That high is 571.42. If we go to the 5-minute chart and we go back to Thursday, take a look at this action on Thursday. This was incredible. 571.42. Break. Retest. Rejection. Downside continuation. All right. So that was a very key spot on Thursday of last week. That is what kept the market lower. Now today, take a look at where we're at. We're sitting right on that level. So the question today for me early morning is, do you fail this level? And if you do, I think that will give you that insight that we're going to fill the gap. If you hold above this level and you see very strong action above it, you might not get your gap fill and you might just go straight up to your 577 supply. Because above this 571.42, I don't really see too much until that high. Maybe there's a little bit here. Let me see. Hold on. Now that I'm looking at this, there might be maybe a little bit of caution right here. Like around this. Yeah, maybe a little bit of caution here, guys, around 573, 573.50. You could have some caution of failures in that area. I would actually go ahead and I'm going to put this on my charts. I like this. 573, 573.50, right in there. There could be some concern there, right? You can see failures and then this high right here. So I would maybe just be a tad bit cautious, right? If we get frothy into that, there could be some failures there. Let me see what that is on the NASDAQ futures, actually. On the NASDAQ futures, that is, yeah, I'm going to add this level on my charts. That's 23.7. Yeah, 23.7, 23.690. I would go ahead and pop that on the charts, guys. Get that on there. Just in case. That could be a little bit of a tricky spot. 23.690, 23.700. Right there. Rejection. Rejection. If we continue higher today, that could be a little bit of a cautionary spot. Okay? So be aware of that. But right now, you can see we are failing 23.617 right now. So this still, in my mind, can see this downside move. Very possible. So stay open to that. This is a gap fill. This is a gap up. And it's very easy to give back these gap ups. It's not on big volume. So just be aware of that. Data is also in 3 minutes. Data could facilitate that. We shall see. Okay. Is there anything on that on the ES? Yeah, that's sort of back. Yeah, I mean, we already sort of have that. That's up at the 60. Okay. Yeah, a little bit of discrepancy on the NASDAQ first Qs, right? NASDAQ is under, QQQ is sitting at it. Yeah, there's a slight discrepancy there. We'll see what this data does. Probably clears it up a little bit. IWM, nice holds. Still sort of middle of the channel for me, so I really don't see too much of a trade here, but you could look for a hold over the daily 20. You could look for pullbacks to 218. It's really 218 to 225 here, guys. I'd probably just sort of wait for one of those to hit. Let's go quickly to Bitcoin because Bitcoin is doing exactly what we talked about. Look at Bitcoin. Look at the daily chart. This is interesting. Something to watch. Previous highs on Bitcoin, 113,800, 114,000. That's been our spot. We've been looking for that retest. Look at what you're starting to see here on Bitcoin. Very interesting. That is a daily chart break and retest of the breakout point. That is definitely something to keep eyes on here over the next few days. Finally, the SMH before we get our data. The SMH did not break below the 283 major demand. It held it like a beast yesterday, and we broke back above the downtrend. So today, what I'm going to look for is a pullback hold at 289 or a break over 293.50. What a beautiful hold again of the exact lows on the SMH. Looked like the SMH was starting to get a little bit weak, right? But we had to still break below demand. Just because something's weakening doesn't mean that you just disregarded demand below. Look at what the SMH did all day yesterday off our major demand below, right here. We've had this level on our charts for about 3-4 weeks now. 283. Look at that hold at 283 yesterday. So that was a very, very important hold for the SMH. That sort of changes the script here. Huge hold 283. You got back above the daily 20. You're up into the 293.50 supply, so that is something to be cautious of, right? Let's see what happens here on the data. All right. So S&P 500. We'll keep that up. Let's see what this data does in about 15 seconds. If you guys could, please press that like button, subscribe to the channel. Press that like button, subscribe to the channel. 900 likes. We could get the 1,500 target. That's always our target, 1,500. Alrighty. Data. Looking not too movie. Not moving too much yet. Hamish. What do we got, Hamish? Data's maintaining. Jobless claims 226 versus 221. Not too much action there yet. Labor costs, 1 point. So labor cost in line with estimates. Jobless claims slightly higher. Yeah. Holding up slightly. ES, NASDAQ, Qs. I think we just got to watch out for this 23,617, guys. I think that's really the key spot. 23,617 NASDAQ is going to be a little bit tough. ES, 6,400, 6,390 is going to be the spot to look for holds. This 6,430 area is going to be tough. SPY. Where did my levels go on SPY? Oh, hashtag hash. Yeah, I never slash SPY. It's not a level. That's not a chart. 634. I mean, this high is just going to be slightly tough, so let's be careful there. We now have a very clear pre-market high to be aware of. Yeah, I'd say this 617 spot's going to be the key spot to watch. Let's see if it rejects here. Yeah, you can see it's getting a little heavy there again. 23,617. Keep that in your mind. Keep that level sort of, you know, on your mind there today. That's going to be very important. Bitcoin, what's Bitcoin doing off that? And not much. Okay. All right, let's see what happens. Let's see what the rest of the pre-market looks like. You are rejecting 23,617 still. That is a very important spot. That could definitely sort of keep this market timid, or at least slow for the moment, for the morning. All right. So let's jump into some individual equities. Tesla, big move overnight, sort of giving some of it back, pretty much back at where it closed yesterday. Tesla is up against a big test here today. I want to go ahead and show you real quick the weekly chart. The weekly chart is very interesting. Where's my weekly chart? There it is. So this is very intriguing. This is something we've been watching for a few weeks now, right? It's sort of this this wedge that's been forming on the weekly. Is there eventually some kind of a move that Tesla gives us on the upside or downside of this wedge? I would say eventually, right? I don't know when, but I would say eventually you're going to get this to break out of this wedge. For now, you're up against a major supply today, and I would be aware of that. So today on Tesla, you are up against this major 323 level right here. 323, you have the daily 50 and the daily 200 SMA sort of sitting right here, acting as a rejection point. So please be aware of that today on Tesla. That is very possibly a failure point today. What we've been looking for over the last few days was Tesla to get a hold over 312, right? We talked about 312 on Tesla. We talked about if we can get a hold above that, we can continue higher. That's pretty much what happened yesterday. You got above 312 and you just basically squeezed higher, right above 312. So today, I would say daily 20 SMA pullbacks could be on watch, right? That's definitely an area to keep an eye on today, the daily 20, wherever that may be sitting when the intraday comes in. But I would say to find a new entry on Tesla, you're probably going to want this over 323. You're probably going to want this over 323 to get a new entry on Tesla today. Without that, I think it's a little bit tough to be long into 323, right? And I would probably want to get a hold above that for new entry points, right? Get above 323. If you can hold above that, then I think you can continue. But that's going to be the key spot. And you can see right now, Tesla is failing that level. How's the market doing? Pretty much staying flat. Okay. So Tesla's failing that 323. That's going to be a big spot. Please be careful of that today. Nvidia. So today, for me, going to be watching a pullback hold around 179 to 180. That's going to be the key spot for me today, right here. If we can get a pullback to these highs here, this sort of support and failure here, and then this little rejection area from yesterday, and of course this pre-market hold here, If we can get a hold back in this 179, 180 zone, I think that's going to be the key spot to look for. That would be a great pullback long for me today, 180, 179. If we don't get that, then this might just sort of rip to 184, to be honest. Maybe holds above these highs here at 180, 150, right? You can see right here, 180, 150, right there. That is possibly a little bit of a hold spot today, right? If this thing just wants to stay super strong, just holds above Tuesday highs, holds above this rejection, and just sort of rips right off 180, 150, I think that is possible if this market wants to just stay super, super strong. If you fail back under that, then I would look for your pullback long back at this 180, 179. Target here would be 184. Most interesting long today for me is the AMD gap fill from earnings. If SMH and the market stays very strong today, I would love to look for AMD to fill this earnings gap down move. This one's going to be interesting. So if you look at AMD here, there is pretty much nothing above 167. You have 167 lows. You have 167 rejections yesterday. You have now 167 sitting right here in the pre-market. Yesterday, you pulled back to our 162, and you even pulled back to our 157. And both of those levels held and reclaimed, also reclaiming the daily 20 SMA. This, to me, is a very nice bottoming formation, right? You sort of trapped bears down into 157, reclaimed back above 162, and now you're higher, right? So that's pretty good. If you can get above 167 today on AMD, I do believe that you're going to see this try to gap fill this earnings move back to 175. That's if the market and SMH stays very strong today. That's going to be the big question. What do the semis look like today? Are they strong? Can AMD get over 167? That's going to be big. Broadcom, monster. Just a monster. We all know Broadcom's a monster. Broadcom holding 290 perfectly again. Getting above 300 to 302 right here. Huge hold here. Today, you're up against all-time highs at 307. Pullback longs, 300, 302, or break and retest hold above 307. That's really it. MU for pump. MU held above at 108 and did rocket higher last night off that 108. Very, very clear level that we need to break here. Very clear level and a very easy thesis here on MU. If MU can get above 117, 117, and 117, if you can get a hold above that, that's where you look long. I would not be long into 117. I would look for a hold back above it, right? That's what I would look for. MU 117 pump. That's what I'd be watching. Do I like the AMD 167 rejection play? I think you could look for it, Carlos, but you probably want to see the market weaken, right? I don't know if I'm going to be looking for rejection plays if the NASDAQ's above our pullback long levels, right? I don't know if I'm going to be looking for SMH to go down if we're above the daily 20, right? Not sure I'm going to be looking for downside today if we got a squeeze and hold back above the 289 daily 20 SMA on the SMH, right? Because any pullback from this point on the SMH is a bullish pullback back into this daily 20. Now, if you reject here and move back under the daily 20, then maybe you could start looking for that weakness, right? But you need to see the market-wide weakness before you start fading individual equities. All right. Meta, reclaim back above 770, right? Reclaim back above 770 is really important. Let's see if this can hold. 770 is a big spot. We held that 758. You're just up against this 785 today. So for me, it's not really a trade on Meta until you get over 785. I just have my alert at 785. Amazon, can we hold 220 today? This is going to be very interesting as well. This is similar to the AMD trade, right? This is a gap fill on earnings. Can Amazon hold over 220? If Amazon can hold this high and hold 220, that would be very good for a move back into the daily 20 at 226.50, and then above that, back into the 234. But you need to hold 220. If you fail back under this 220 level, that gets sort of weak again. So, got to watch 220 Amazon. Apple. So, big squeeze overnight on Apple. Finally breaking the 216, 215 area. However, Apple is starting to reject the 200 SMA at 220, which is a very big spot here. Right? This is a heavy spot for Apple. So, I would be a little bit cautious being, Just if you're long Apple overnight, I'm definitely going to look to take some profits near the open if it holds up for me. I'm a little bit cautious into that daily 200. That really was the target on this trade. It sort of just went straight to it in the overnight session. So we'll see if it holds up, but I'm going to expect some selling there. The ultimate target here has always been 225, which is this right here to fill this downside gap, right? 225 is that ultimate target, but to get there, you're going to have to get above the 200 SMA, which is a pretty big and important spot to break. Now, for me, the best re-entry long here would be to let Apple pull back and see if it can prove to you that it's going to try to hold above 215, 216. If Apple can pull back, right, and actually start to find holds at 215, 216, that would be the long that I would be looking for. Let's see if it can pull back and hold that level today. I want to go over Netflix, because Netflix may be starting to spark slightly. It's got to get over a key level, though. It's got to get over 1200. So if we go to this daily chart, we can see Netflix right here just pulled back to our 1150 spot, right? We had these daily highs at 1150. That's where it held and pulled back to. You also now have a daily 100 SMA that's starting to catch up to price action. That's very interesting. You're starting to get Netflix to trade back into the daily 100 SMA. That is not often that Netflix trades down to that daily 100. And when it does, it typically finds something of support. So going to be watching that daily 100 SMA on Netflix as an opportunity. However, there's still a very clear level that needs to break here before you can long this. And I think that's 1200. 1200, previous lows, major rejections, daily 20 SMA. I need to see a hold above 1200. If we get that, I have my alert set. I'll definitely be looking for it. OKLO, looking like a potential breakout again today over 85. I would be watching 85 today. Pullback longs at 80 would be a dream. Over 85 would be a very nice breakout in my opinion. Watching 85 on OKLO today. Hood, getting some strength with the Bitcoin strength, right? And I would be watching, if Bitcoin continues, I would be watching what Hood does here. Hood has held that 100, 102 area like a monster, yesterday included, holding very strong at that level, and the daily 20. If Hood can get over 108 here, then I think you have a pretty free move to 110. Over 110, you're going to keep going. So 108 today on Hood, very big level. Palantir. I mean, this is about as perfect as it gets on Palantir. I was very close to adding this to my swing trade list yesterday, but I figured I already had enough risk on, so I said, you know what, let's take it easy. But this was incredible. Look at this. Previous high, Tuesday highs. Yesterday, what do? We squeeze straight above it. What happens next? You squeeze up into the 180 level, you start to find some failures, and the rest of the afternoon, you have this slow pullback straight back down to where? You guessed it, the previous highs. I mean, just absolutely on the dot, perfection. Previous highs, break. Where do? You go to the retest hold, retest long opportunity. Awesome. I mean, just perfect. So that's awesome on Palantir. That is a thing of beauty. What I would be looking for today is a hold over this 180, 180.50. If you hold above this, you're just going to rock it here. If you fail back under it, you're coming back down to 176, which then creates another interesting long. Okay. Target for margin. Sure, let's take a look at target. Yeah, what level did we talk about last week? 109, right? Yeah, 109. Got to get above it. Got to get above it. Go. Okay. Target 109. That would be the level I'd be watching. Okay. Datadog. Yep. Datadog. Huge move on earnings. Right. Huge move on earnings. Started giving it back though. 156 is the level to be careful of on Datadog. 156. Google's got to get over 200. It's actually looking like you're getting to it. Yeah, you're getting to 200. Over 200, 203, over 203, all-time highs. Yeah, I have an alert here. I've been waiting on this. You guys know we've been just sort of waiting on Google to get over 200. That's what I'm going to wait for today. Can we get a move over 200? That would be really nice. 200. Google. Hims, sort of dying off for now. The juice, the pill has worn off for the moment. I don't know. I'm not going to really watch this one, unfortunately. Hims, not much for me today. All right, I think that's it. I think that's it for me today. Those are all my watches. Those are really the main ones that I got. I'm sure there's 1,000 more out there to be looking for. I'm sure like TTD is probably looking pretty interesting. You know, that's been an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, TTD over the 200 SMA today is probably pretty sexy. I would maybe look for that a little bit if you want to sort of take a look at what TTD is up to. Except TTD has earnings tomorrow, so maybe not interesting there, actually. Never mind. Microsoft, last one. I do want to keep eyes on Microsoft. I'm not that interested today, but I want to keep eyes on this, right? This is a pretty good pullback on Microsoft. You can see right here. Good pullback on Microsoft. Over 533, over 540. This thing can absolutely go, so I'm just going to set my alerts there on Microsoft. All right, let's get a quick check-in on the market here. Market's just sort of stabilizing right under 617, which gives me some vibes that you might see a rejection there early morning. S&P 500 sort of crawling back down to that 6,400. SPY sort of right in the middle. QQQ is holding 571.42, so we'll see. But NASDAQ futures, I'm going to need this to clear out this 617 level here, guys. That's going to be something I definitely look for. And again, the last thing I want to say, pullback longs, gap fill longs are always the best long. Always the best long, right? That is just simply how the market works. So if we get the gap fill, embrace it. If we get downside today to fill that gap, embrace it. Don't get panicked, right? Pay attention to where the gap fills. Pay attention to what opportunities arise after that gap is filled. All right? All right, guys, I appreciate you being here. If you could, please press that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'm thinking about doing this thing. I got to figure out if there's a software out there that it can do it, but like I want to like create something where you like sort of check in or you clock in. Every day you clock into the live stream, you have to come to the live stream. Let's say there's like a code on the screen. You clock in on this website or on some kind of software, and then you know, the amount of clock-ins you have goes to like a you know, like some kind of ticketing system to win a giveaway, right? Every week. So let's say you have 5 clock-ins, you have the highest chance to win. Let's say you have 2 clock-ins, you have a lower chance to win, right? Something like that. I want to create that. If anyone knows something along those lines, feel free to reach out to me in Discord or on Instagram or wherever. Or maybe I just build that software. I mean, maybe I can find a way to build it. But basically, it would just be like, hey, every day you come to the live stream, you got to find, the code is on the screen, you got to get it on the live stream. You go to a website, you clock in, you put the code in. Honestly, I could probably just use like Google Forms. Honestly, I could probably just use like a Google Forms. Like a passcode. Like the passcode to enter the Google Forms is the code, and then you check in every day. That's actually probably what I'll do. I want to like create some kind of a system for us. So that's that. All right, guys. I hope you have a fantastic day. And I will see you tomorrow morning. Peace out.